record on this computer, wherever it's recording. Recording. Okay, very good. Okay, yesterday we just got the central theme. Now that is what is covered in chapter 2, that is safety induction. And what we discussed yesterday was you have to follow all rules and regulations and safety procedures on ship. If you spot any hazard, you have to report it. You have to be actively participating in safety. How jobs are done, discuss it. Then there is something called Toolbox Meeting where we discuss the job. What basically we discuss the job is what are the dangers involved, how we are encountering them, and then doing the job. That is what we do always. So this is more or less what we covered up till yesterday. Now moving on, living on board. Now when you live on board, you realize it is something like this situation, what we have got, locked up, and you work in the same premises. Right now you all are doing at home. So what we do is the same thing, but only thing we work in shifts and we are like big, you can say a joint family of about 22 persons. And we have got much bigger space, which you don't see generally here. Now, one of the first thing that happens is fatigue. Fatigue is extreme tiredness, where you're mentally tired, you're physically tired, you can't think straight, you slow down, at times your eye and limb coordination may not be okay. So that all can lead it to accidents. Now you have to prevent fatigue. Fatigue prevention means, of course, you all know what is fatigue because every time you say, no, we have to run 5 kilometers. So same way, you know the fatigue. Now, how do you avoid it? Of course, you all never believed when we said something in classes, but everybody should be rested at the start of the work, before the work begins. Now that used to be our problem generally because after all you chat till 1 o'clock and you don't get enough of time. Anyway, take scheduled rest periods. Now when we work, we don't work generally 8 hours non-stop. We do take breaks in the middle, like on ships. You generally start work 8 o'clock, you will have a break around 10:15. Then you will have a break around 12 o'clock for lunch. Then again, approximately around 3 o'clock, you will have a break again, what we say coffee break, whatever you call it, tea break. And then 5 o'clock we finish. Now, the research is always telling you that you need to get uninterrupted sleep. Now that is, generally we aim for 8, but you must have at least 6 hours of uninterrupted sleep. That is important. Eat regular, well-balanced means, of course, this you really can't do much except eating because the cook will be cooking the meals. And food is generally good, except you may not like the taste in the beginning because poor cook has to cook for 22 guys coming from 22 different places. Then avoid alcohol and caffeine before you sleep. That is, alcohol, of course, generally you're not going to see. Caffeine means it can be tea, coffee, or any one of the drinks like Coca-Cola. They all have got caffeine. So you should avoid it in the evening before you go to sleep. Then you keep a record. A form is maintained, that is, record hours of rest. So that is always checked, cross-checked. It is produced. It is one of the required documents. And everybody maintains it on board, the period of rest. So that is what you will do. Now, when you come to hot and cold climates, both affect your body and all. Now, the bigger problem comes is not when you are inside the accommodation. Accommodation is perfectly okay. It is temperature control, humidity control, all fine. when you go in and out of accommodation for work, or if you are on a bridge. When you're on a bridge watch keeping, you do step out in the wings for lookout purpose, and outside temperature might be cold or hot, and inside is air conditioned. So, couple of things do happen. Now, if you have to spend extra time outside too, then we always make sure you generally use full sleeve boiler suits and all. That is to avoid dehydration. Like Arabs live in 45 degrees Celsius temperatures, but they are fully covered. That is to avoid dehydration. Now, if it is cold, you use some sort of creams. If it is hot and you're going to get it on your face, then you use sunblock. Dangers in cold weather. Normally, you don't reach that sort of cold that easily, but you will have frostbite, frostnip. Now, they generally, the first feeling when you are having the problem are extremities, like fingertips will start paining first. That is the first sign that you are heading for it. So, at times, what happens when you're wearing gloves, shoes, there is perspiration. Now, the perspiration slowly will absorb the outside temperature, and that can make it quite bad because then your gloves start freezing. So, you have to ensure that you do get rid of the sweating, what happens inside. Sometimes you have to get your gloves warmed up, shoes warmed up, and so on. Normally, hypothermia issue, you will not get much because you will be wearing warm clothes. And also remember one thing, what warm clothes we consider in India are not really suitable for those extremely cold conditions. The cold conditions can be really bad, and like I have been to temperatures like minus 24 degrees Celsius. Now, obviously, ordinary warm clothes don't last there. First thing, we avoid work in those things. But in case you have to go out, like for example, there are mooring stations. You have to go out. You can't avoid it. So that time you have to be very careful about what you are wearing. Work clothes normally will be cotton boiler suits. No loose flaps. Means if you have got full sleeves, you must button it up. Pockets, ties. There should be no loose part which can get caught in moving machinery or obstruction somewhere. This sometimes we all go through. Something gets stuck and you trip. Then whole part of the body normally should be covered. And long hair, if you are keeping, now of course you won't believe it first that since you are used to short hair, but long hair are allowed. Means it depends on ship. Captain has got no problem, you have got no issues. You can have ponytail, but they must be tied and covered. That means you have to wear some sort of a cap. You get some nice ones anyway. Nike and all also makes them. And safety footwear is always there, like safety shoes, which are non-skid, electric shock proof, and so on. Next comes is shipboard housekeeping. Good housekeeping reduces accidents. It is like clean places, you have lesser accidents. So everything should be tidy, neat. No loose stuff should be hanging around. Then we'll have things like when you work there. Before you work, you see, are you going to make anything dirty? Especially when you're dealing with oily stuff, because it can become slippery and ships are always moving, rolling and pitching. So what you may think is okay, sure, that is dangerous at sea. Then there should be good light. Good light means one simple rule is there. You should be able to read normal newsprint in any light. That is the condition of good light. Then electric circuits should not be overloaded, but generally you can't overload them that easily because there are proper circuit breakers. So it's not that easy. Only don't do unauthorized wiring. Garbage waste material must be cleared up immediately and disposed of correctly, promptly, because we may think I will do it end of the day, but fire can start in between. Doors, drawers should be properly secured, means either mostly they should be closed. And if anything is open, it should be on hook. You never put your hand, I have told you in the class, in the door frame anytime. Emergency signage, fire, life-saving equipment should be clear. Men should not be obstructed for viewing, like it happens. Typically, it happens when you get caught for wrong parking. Then you realize there was a board saying no parking, but I did not see it. Why? Because something else was put on top of it or in front of it. So I did not see it. I have been caught with no parking and I paid fine. And at least 2, 3 times I have been victim of this. Instruction plate, notices, etc. should be kept clean and not obstructed. Again, same thing. Aerosols, especially watch out on this. They have got inflammable contents and deos, which all of us use. Unfortunately, what happens is when you start using deo will be in the evening in port. You are all ready to go out. You had bath. Now you are going to go spray some aerosol deo, and at the same time you are having a nice smoke before stepping out. That can be extremely hazardous because the cigarette will give the spark and whole thing can explode. So just be very careful, especially in port while going out. Then there are many substances found on ships, even at home. Okay, same way we find at home also, which are capable of damaging the health. Like basically like all the toilet cleaning chemicals in the home. They are also same. You have the similar ones there on board. Then you may have some cargoes where you should not be breathing. Then caustic soda, bleaching powder, these are the chemicals which are used for cleaning. But they can burn and penetrate the skin. Then they react with each other. That is why we don't keep like acids and alkalis together on board. You have to read instructions first. Do not assume things that you know it because you are saying. Now there is a labeling system also which indicates the nature of hazard and the strength of it. Now moving on further, we have got a lot of, in spite of all the efforts, we still meet accidents. So now, what accidents we meet? Normally, it is based on statistics. Hand injuries, because you work with hand, very common. Problem is we use gloves and we think we are becoming invincible, but no, there are precautions, but within limitation. There is nothing without limitation. Foot injuries generally happen when we wear sandals or flip-flop. Flip-flop means slippers, the rubber slippers what we use in bathrooms and all. Now those ones, if you do not use, except you may be in your cabin, that's the only time you may use. You will not use it anywhere else. You use shoes because they become part of your body. Whereas anything like sandals and all, they're always loose. So you never use them for work. That's the end of it. There are no discussions on this. Eye injury. This is generally the reason is working with power tools and something going in eye, or painting, a drop flies off and goes in your eye. Something like that normally. And rare case, you may feel that eye injury is taking place because you were staring at something. Possible while keeping lookout. But when you are keeping lookout, you also use goggles if required. Head injuries, especially for tall guys. You may be hitting your head here and there. And unfortunately, everywhere you have got steel. If you don't have helmet or head protection, you will be getting bumped. And there was one case, one guy told me, one fourth engineer, long, long ago. He said he went in bilges in engine room and he went in engine room and he was working in bilges and he was not wearing helmet. And then he got engrossed with work and suddenly he tried to stand up and banged his head. He fainted there. After some time, he came around. Again, nobody knew he was working there. This is long, old story, really old. Means it is about, I will put it almost 40 years ago. Then he came to his senses and again he didn't realize where he was. Again he tried to stand up and again he banged his head and fainted second time. Now it sounds like a joke, but it actually happened to him. And after that, he decided he will wear helmet because those days, people used to be little bolder type. I will not use helmet and all. Anyway, coming next part, cuts. A cut on your finger or anywhere on your body is considered accident. Now, what happens is normally, if you are aware of the things, you will be wearing gloves and everything. Now, in galley, especially when you have got sharp knives, or in engine room, you may have something. So those things you have to be careful. Don't put your hand inside a bucket or something just like that, especially garbage, because there may be broken glass inside. There might be sharp things inside. So when you put your hand inside, especially in a garbage bucket, be very careful, or something that is not sorted out, don't push your hand inside. So that is where there is a good chance of cutting. Burns and scars. Normally hot pipeline stoves that is in a galley and all, or in engine room hot pipelines. Then you also realize there are places where you have got like lifeboat engine can get hot. Normally, this is the only thing you will find. You will not find really anything else. But be careful with hot plates because you can get electric shock as well as severe burns. Hot water also can scald you because you might be making a cup of coffee, but water is boiling and you're pouring it in a cup and you're holding on to cup and ship is rolling. Ship is rolling and pitching. There is always a probability you may drop something on your hand and you will get scalds. Scalds can be really bad if they go untreated or if you become allergic to something. Then you lose a lot of skin. Tools, misuse. Misuse means half knowledge about the tool. That is misuse. One tool is meant for specific purpose. If you are going to use it for a wrong purpose, it is misuse. So read instructions first. Understand limitations of the tools. Everything has got limitations. Manual handling, that is you're lifting up something. Now here when I say heavy loads, now this heavy load definition varies from country to country, place to place. Some places they don't have, they try to discuss it, but they never reach conclusion because the load for labor in India is like 40 kilos, 35 kilos, 35 kilos and 55 kilos. Now, why this funny thing comes in? 35 kilos and all means normally a smaller bags of provisions and all one can lift up. But 50 kilos, a lot of food stuff is in 50 kilo bags. So, you also have a labor which is paid more salaries to pick up 50 kilos. Those guys can pick up 55, 60 kilos. But as far as you go, your limitation is 20 kilos. More than 20 kilos, call for help. Next comes our mooring operations. Mooring, unmooring, you all have seen the mooring rope size. Now we are really dealing with massive forces there. And these forces are such, like one mooring rope breaking, it needs about 100 tons. 100 metric tons is something like 5 truckloads. So get idea. Your milk truck, including the body, everything, may not be even 15 tons. So just imagine what sort of a force is involved. So that is where we actually about 35-40% accidents happen during moorings only. Electrical hazards should not be normally an issue if you follow all the rules, because you don't start working like ETO. If you need any electrical help, you have to call ETO. He will do everything and then you utilize. Don't try to become electrician on your own. And we don't make modifications on ships. Now these sunglasses, again we are coming to the same reference. The bright light from calm sea at times and ice caps, of course, if you are going to polar region, but normally, mainly it is like when sun is rising and setting, you can have the sector in the sea which will be reflecting lot of sunlight, and your lookout duty covers up that area also. So simple truth is, when you do that, you use sunglasses, and of course I think all of you like to use, and you can look stylish also. Now rubbish collection, again we are referring, items should never be removed by hand from the bin. Why? Because your hands can get cut. If you get cut and catch some infection, that is another bad thing. Now we move on to the next chapter. Four to seven. Okay. Very good. Now we have 51. We scored half century. Okay. Emergency drills and procedures, which are covered under chapter 4, are basically drills are done for fire and abandoned ship. Okay, there is technically nothing called boat drill, even though we use that word loosely. Technically, it is a fire drill and abandoned ship drill. Participation is compulsory. There is no option for anybody on ship. Okay, no option on our ships, cargo ships. And drills may save your life someday, because drill is drill. It goes on. If you are in a good company, well-run ships, you will be only doing drills. You will never come across emergency. That is the goal. Okay. Now, drill is practice, practice, practice. In normal person, may not come across any emergency in sea careers, but you must be ready, because drills will save your life. Next is fire precautions. Smoking in designated areas only. Now, even some companies are considering no more smoking in cabins, only in designated area where they will have special air purifiers to ensure that people do not get second-hand smoke anyway. Now, this part I do not know. E-cigarettes can cause a fire, but obviously, if it is mentioned, means it must have happened. I don't know how it can happen, but because I really don't know e-cigarettes much. I just know I've seen few all guys smoking them, but I don't know how it happens. Another rule is, do not alter electrical fittings anywhere. Simple. Everything is provided in your cabin and workplace. You don't have to alter it. This next part is important. Do not use unapproved electrical heaters, because sometimes Your cabin may be in excessively cold area. It is exposed. Normally, it happens to captains and all. Not so much because others, because your cabin normally will be covered from sides with other cabins. One side will be alleyway, and one bulkhead will be exposed to the weather. Whereas it happens with captain chief engineer's cabins at times. They have got their two sides, so they got two bulkheads exposing their cabin, and plus the deckhead, the next deck. So they get exposed by three sides. So they can have these issues more than others. But unapproved electric heaters are not allowed because they can start fire. There are some ships. There is one Indian ship, Goan company, which was lost, total constructive loss because of unapproved electric heaters. Accommodation caught fire and whole thing got burnt. Now this spontaneous combustion, spontaneous combustion, it is normally what happens is it starts on its own. Now we have seen these fires which happen on farms. Sometimes compost catches fire. The garbage dumps you will find fires because that is what happens with this combustion. On ships, normally dirty waste rags, means cotton waste, what you use for cleaning hands or cleaning anything. Rags are like clothes only. Sawdust. Sawdust, if it is wet and contaminated with oil, can catch fire on its own. So we watch out all these things. And if at all we have got such thing, then we store them separately. So even if the fire starts, we can stop it. And important thing is flammable materials are never stored in machinery spaces and galley. So that is machinery spaces mean no loose pen drums, no chemicals, nothing. That is all in locker. In galley, flammable materials generally will not be there because what is there in galley is normal cooking stuff, which is not normally flammable. Then comes the ship's security. Now, why do you need security? Risk of theft, terrorism, armed robbery, stowaways, piracy, drug smuggling. Once upon a time, what we never faced any one of these problems. Cabins used to be open, nobody locked the cabin, everybody respected people's privacy. There were no thefts, nothing. It was good once upon a time, and over a period things have changed. Today, what happens is you have got a theft, which can be anywhere, internal or external. Terrorism, that is, piracy and all comes in there. Armed robberies, guys can come on board with guns and rob you. Stowaways, that is another danger, people hiding on your ship to find free passage somewhere else. Drug smuggling, because those gangs like to use ship to carry drugs and then they try to get it off from the ship in the port. So this is you're dealing with some sort of a drug mafia. Now, best way to avoid is follow all instructions and plan, because obviously considering all this, you make plan. Be serious about security. Don't take it lightly. In ports, you need good lighting so that if anybody gets on board, because a desperate guy can come on board using a rope from anywhere, a mooring ropes, or they can just throw a hook and climb up, or use anchor chain. If you are at anchor, they can climb up from there. So you have to have good lights and watch keeping system, as well as a gangway watch is maintained in ports, because your gangway is down, anybody can come up, and there is always a gangway watchman who must not leave his place. He will stop you, he will ask you where you are going, who are you, then he has got walkie-talkie to connect to the person and check, and that is how it is. But we have to take it seriously. If you are on gangway watch, you cannot be saying that, oh, I took my half an hour break for coffee. No. Then somebody else has to relieve you. But gangway 24/7 means 24/7. Now at sea, we have got a lot of lookouts and other things. That is because of let's say piracy stuff. Then pirates are not going to light and come. They will come in unlit crafts, obviously. So we also use night vision equipment, night scopes and all. It is done. It's done on ship because I have seen it. Health surveillance. Surveillance means shipping company conducts your medical examination, including X-ray, blood test, etc. every year. Every year. And in case you get sick on board, medical help is provided. That means you use the best local facilities available anywhere. And like if hospitalization is required, no problem. Companies at times, in case the matter is serious, give you option of coming back to home country and do the treatment in your own city where you know the doctors. Because one danger involved here is when you get little seriously sick, you also become a guinea pig for doctors there. Why? Because like for example, a typhoid. In USA, people had never seen typhoid. We had a case. Then all doctors were calling their doctor friends to show the patient. So it can be dangerous. Or somebody may decide to experiment. Why? Because you are an insurance case. So you have to be careful. But if you get sick, you should ask for help. And you will get all the help, including in case if there is evacuation. We do medical evacuation using helicopters and other facilities. So now we have reached somewhere. We have got, okay, we have 54 also now. So what I will do now is I will unmute you. Okay, now you are unmuted. Anybody has got any doubt? Okay. Writing option I have to close.
Sir, I think it's enough.
How do you? किसने वो किया था? Let me see. Writing option मेरे को ढूंढने दो. What other option is? There is only one, and I think it was done before. Anybody try writing something now?
We cannot write, sir. We cannot write.
Okay, that means I
not
know.
available.
No, बराबर है, because I did the right thing, but I was little slow. You all were faster. Okay. Now, any doubts? Now we come to any doubts. Abhi tak anything that you are not understanding?
No, sir.
Okay. Now another thing, what I want you to do for tomorrow is go to chapter 8 go to chapter. अरे मेरे दोस्तों का फ्रेंड है उधर.
Sir, mute us all.
नहीं. Okay. 8 to 10 you go through. Okay. And because what happens is I want to know whether you understand the language. See, I have written the thing. I agree, I understand it. But do you understand it? The language, is it easy enough to understand?
So it's very easy, sir.
Understandable.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
See, okay. 8 to 10 plus. See, 8 to 10, 11, 12 for tomorrow. Okay. Tomorrow is our end of the week lecture, and then again we will have something on ROR. Okay, collision regulation.
Okay,
Now,
sir.
now what you understand is this. collision regulations, what I have told you to take test, it is difficult test. But why I want you to take is, you will start realizing if you have got any misunderstanding in understanding what is the rule. So you take the test, don't worry about your marks, but just get an idea how you have to be exact with the wording. That is what is important. Now, so after that, Palsar is going to take on probably Thursday, Friday, and then again Saturday I will take. But go through ROR also. And tomorrow, just read 8 to 12, these chapters, which I have shown it here. Okay? These ones, you go through, and especially let me know in case you understand it clearly or no, because this is our last portion of our syllabus. And if you get ready before college opens up, nothing like it. You will have a lot of free time to catch up with other things. So all okay now?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Nikhil, all okay, correct?
Yes, sir.
Very good.
Take care,
And how
sir.
are
Bye,
you
sir.
doing?
Thank you, sir.